Littleton is a place that you would think would be a very safe place to raise your children. There's beautiful homes, golf courses, parks.
Here he goes, here he goes. You gonna win the race?
It had all of the things that America looks for. That's why this tragedy is completely shocking.
It's really hard, you know? This is not a war zone. I live here, I walk my dogs here. My kids grew up here.
The kids were in just a total state of shock. They were saying things and talking about their friends. One boy just, he said, "They killed my friend. They just shot him."
Being that close to death, I mean, having a situation like that makes you think twice about your friends and your family and what you believe in.
Me and my friends just came to write on the windows because we know that she's watching us and smiling and laughing at us and stuff, and we know that she'd be kicking our butts right now if we knew that we were crying about her.
We can't even envision this happening in our high schools, and so it's stunning. You have to step back. It's going to take a few days before anyone can figure out how to handle it.
I think love and caring for each other is about the only thing that can heal this community and this state.
Just be a part of your community and just be sure that you tell everybody that you know that you love them every day. I mean, so many of those parents didn't get the chance to say goodbye to their kids.
Why did this have to happen? I just want to know why this happened, and I hope nobody ever has to go through this again because it's been so hard.
Mitchell Johnson, 13, killed 4 students and a teacher in Jonesboro, Arkansas, with 11-year-old accomplice Andrew Golden. 15-year-old Kip Kinkle shot and killed 2 students in Springfield, Oregon. Michael Carneal, 14, killed 3 at a Paducah, Kentucky prayer meeting. Luke Woodham, 16, killed his mother, then killed 3 students in Pearl, Mississippi. Who could have predicted these 2 innocent young boys, Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, would grow up to be the next brutal teenage killers in the latest of a series of violent and horrifying school shootings? Were the signs of violence always there? On Eric Harris's web profiles, note the words, "kill 'em all," and "it's fun being schizophrenic." Eric designed these characters for the video game Doom. But if you look carefully, you can see the outline of plans to build a pipe bomb on the reverse side. Only days before the shooting, Dylan Klebold attended the prom with girlfriend Robin Anderson, who purchased 2 of the guns used in the massacre. In this ominous photo, Dylan wears a serial killer t-shirt. Before long, he and his best friend Eric Harris would go down in history themselves as vicious serial killers bent on revenge and destruction.
Did you see anyone shot? Were they shooting at people? Or did you see...
we saw like 3 people get shot.
Janine, did it look like they were shooting at specific people?
They were just shooting. They didn't care who they shot at. They were just shooting. And then they threw a grenade or they threw something that blew up.
We are hearing now that there are even more explosions.
Yeah,
at the school.
people around the school are hearing more explosions right now, and Associated Press is reporting that the Sheriff's Department has confirmed multiple injuries.
Littleton paramedics in Arapahoe County, the SWAT team is actually forming behind here. They've just put on their full body armor, and it appears that they're getting ready to move in as well. Apparently, this all began between 11:30 and 11:45 a.m. this morning. Not really sure the circumstances. They do believe that at least 2 people are inside. With multiple automatic weapons and perhaps some pipe bombs. We've heard apparently 2 suspects, all dressed in black with semi-automatic weapons, were in the school and began to fire. They are believed to still be inside at this time. And here at the staging area, you can also see lots of emergency equipment coming in. We're going to talk to one of the students who is inside the school right now. Give me your name, sir.
Zach Miller.
Zach, what did you see or hear, I guess?
I heard, okay, I was sitting in math class, and all of a sudden we look out, and there's people that are sprinting down our math hall, and we open the door, we hear a shot, a loud bang, and then we hear some guy go, "Holy crap, there's a guy with a gun." So everybody starts freaking out. One of my friends goes up to the door and says there's a guy standing there. We evacuate to the corner of our classroom, and my teacher just doesn't know what to do because she's so freaked. And
most of the students, do you know if they got out?
Most of my friends did. I don't know about most of the others, but it looked like all the school was there except a few. And then we just evacuated to the park, and that's all I can tell you right now.
Okay. What was going through your mind when you heard all this happening?
Adrenaline. I just want to find the guy, see if he's if me and my friends think he is, and just we hope he hasn't got into anybody else, because we don't want our friends hurt over this incident.
Thanks very much for talking to us.
Now, these guys were described by all of the witnesses as wearing the black masks and black trench coats, and we had heard from some students that there was a group of kids that hung around that wore black trench coats. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I think those kids, I think that they're just trying to attempt to live the Gothic lifestyle. I don't think that they're really, they could be to blame for this. I think this is the society in which we live. If it is them that is committing these atrocious crimes, then we should blame the society in which we live them, which is pressing them to behave in this. This is about the 7th time this has happened. I just can't believe it's happening to us.
Tell me what happened and what you saw. You saw a very traumatic event. Talk to me about that.
Yes, I was in the library, and the whole room was just filled with smoke, and I heard gunshots all over, and the two guys who were the trench coat mafia came into the library and were just shooting everyone that they could, anyone that they can, you know? And so we were all under the tables, and the girl who was sitting right across from me under the table was shot in the head right there. And, I mean, it was the worst feeling that I've ever had because, I mean, blood was just going all over, and, I mean, I witnessed that, you know, and it's hard.
Now, how did you manage to get away? Did you hide under a desk or go into a closet or what?
I was still under the table when they were still coming in, and then they just kept on going back and forth between that and, I guess, the cafeteria are all over. So once they left the library, we just kind of ran and were running towards the cop cars, and that's when they transported us down here.
People who may be hiding, rescue people who may be injured and unable to get to safety, as well as, at the same time, trying to confine the gunmen until they can decide either.
All right, we're looking at pictures again. We've been getting coverage from the various affiliates, first KNGH, now KCNC-TV, apparently some sort of armored vehicle. We heard from CNN correspondent Tony Clark a few moments ago that the police authorities there did intend to use SWAT vehicles to move as close as they could to the high school doors.
Can you tell us what you have seen, what you have heard today?
Yes, this morning about 11:30 thereabouts, I took my dog outside, and there was a very loud boom. It sounded like a cannon going off, and it came straight from Columbine High School. And so we ran back in the house and turned on the police scanner and heard the first 911 sound come in. I since heard about, I believe, 7 loud, terrifying blasts, and it sounded more like a bomb than it did gunshots at that time.
Did any students start running toward your house or toward your part of the neighborhood?
Not at that time, no. I saw windows burst out and glass fall all over the ground, but there was screaming, that sort of thing, but I didn't see any people come out at that time.
And I'm just checking over my shoulder here to make sure I'm not missing anything. It's because things are constantly happening.
If they are indeed going to make any move inside that high school, and if they are indeed using flash grenades, one of the first things they do is move people away from the scene. Have they moved you back at all?
Yeah, you know what? Sean, I'm sorry. Let's spin around here, and I apologize, but there's a young man, you see there in the black. He has handcuffs on. This is so they're being escorted down Pierce towards Bowles. And we have no idea, no confirmation from police who this may be or what role he may have had in any of this.
All right.
It's just something I happen to see over my shoulder as you were asking the question, and I apologize. I think you asked me, are they moving any of us back? And the answer to that is no, despite the fact we're hearing reports there may be some shots fired inside the school because, quite frankly, they've got us all significantly far back from that huge Columbine High School campus.
We do have some fatalities. The number of those fatalities is unknown right now. The fatalities also, I'm sorry, it's unknown whether those fatalities are students, faculty, or a mixture of both.
Is 17 years old. Brian was a student at Columbine High School, freshman?
Yeah, no, junior.
Junior. And he was shot by Eric Harris. You, in your own words, tell me what happened.
I was walking down the hall like I do every day, almost every day, and we were walking towards the doorways at the end of the hall, and there's windows in it, and we were looking out the windows, and there's two people outside, and you can see, I saw Eric shooting down a hill and Dylan shooting off into a field.
What'd you think?
I couldn't believe that they were shooting anything at all, because you can't bring any sort of gun to a school in Colorado at all without getting in trouble. I mean, so my curiosity got me, I guess, and so we walked up to the window, and I thought it was a paintball gun at first.
That would be my first thought. Okay, the guy is that kind of guy, and he's playing with a paintball gun.
And so I went through the first doorway and walked up to the second doors and was looking out the window, and I was standing next to it, and then Eric turned and looked at me and saw my hat and shot me through the window.
Why would he shoot you?
I think he just turned and saw my hat because they were looking for any sort of...
What does your hat represent?
It's Nebraska University, and they're pretty big with the athletics.
So this would make you a jock?
Yeah.
Are you a jock?
No, I don't play any sports at the school.
It's just wearing the hat?
Mm-hmm.
So you think he saw the hat and that made him upset or whatever his plan was?
Mm-hmm.
And he shot you. Where'd he shoot you?
He shot me in the chest. It hit me right here, and it went through. When it went through the glass, the bullet split into 2 or 3 different pieces, and one piece hit me right here, and it hit my necklace that I was wearing, and then another piece of the bullet hit me over here. So I was pretty lucky.
You retrieved the bullet?
Yeah, I pulled it out of my shirt later on.
You thought they were coming after you?
Yeah, and so we ran back into a storage room in the library.
And hid in the storage room?
Yeah.
What did you hear Dylan and Eric saying? You heard the gunshots, could you hear them talking?
I couldn't hear them talking as much as I heard people yelling, people screaming, and then you hear a gunshot, and then it just stops. And you could hear them shooting out computer screens and windows and anything out there.
But they weren't saying anything.
That I could hear. I heard them when Isaiah, the black boy, I heard him yell, "I hate niggers," and then shot him.
You heard him say,
Mm-hmm.
"I hate niggers."
Mm-hmm.
What was the sound of their voice? Were they laughing? Were they serious? Were they angry? Was it a joke? What's your opinion?
Their voice, when they were, that I could hear, was like they liked it. It was a game.
This is fun. I hate niggers, bang, fun, fun, fun.
And you'd hear explosions, and then you'd hear them yell, "Woo!" like they'd scored a touchdown or something. They were winning.
I think that at 17, it's kind of hard to know the finality of death.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an amazing, amazing thing, isn't it? If I asked you, why do you think they did it, do you have an answer?
No, just that they wanted to, well, yeah, I guess so. They wanted to prove something. They wanted to get attention since they were outcasts. And nobody really talked to them outside of their French coat mafia. They wanted to get more attention, and this is their way of doing it, I guess.
Thank you, Brian.
Teenagers are having second thoughts about going to school tomorrow, afraid of a Columbine copycat attack. A rumor is circulating at La Mirada High School that there could be another massacre. The Littleton tragedy took place on Hitler's birthday, while tomorrow is the anniversary of Hitler's death. School officials sent a letter home today warning parents about overreacting, but some students aren't taking any chances.
I'm telling them, the students of La Mirada High School, that they will be safe tomorrow, and it's now time to stand up and to not let fear stop them from what is their right, and their rights to come to school.
It doesn't really bother me.
And why not?
Because I don't believe it'll happen.
You're going to come to school tomorrow?
No, my mom doesn't want me to.
Tonight, a Southland teen is under arrest after several explosive devices were found in his home. Let's get right to it. Let's go live. Tamara Iwerks in Oxnard for the latest details on this story. Tamara.
Alan, Oxnard police tell me they've had a wave of copycat crimes ever since the Colorado school shooting. The most recent and the most serious started here at Hueneme High School this morning. A senior boasting about guns and weapons and bombs. It started here at school, but it ended affecting his entire neighborhood.
Police say go away because they had explosion.
Mrs. Morales and 25 of her neighbors were forced out of their homes for 6 hours as authorities worried this house on Pleasant Valley Road might explode.
Once we found bombs in the bedroom, we wanted to make sure there weren't any anywhere else in the house. So they searched every room, the garage. It took a while.
Police say there were multiple pipe bombs in the bedroom of an 18-year-old boy, a senior at Hueneme High, who'd boasted about the explosives this morning at school. An administrator alerted police. After talking with the student, officers took him home to speak with his parents. They gave detectives written permission to search their son's room. Police found the explosives, backed out of the house, and called for the bomb squad.
The bombs were taken away in a large container designed for that, and they'll be x-rayed.
But it won't reveal why it seems so many kids have their hands on explosives.
How come the young people is trying to do that?
Right. See, it's kind of sad. I do think there's more of it going on now. I don't think it's just because we've been hearing about it. I think there is more of it happening now than there was a year ago or 5 years ago.
And tonight, Oxnard police tell me that they believe there are more copycat crimes to come. No easy answers, they say, except parents need to be more closely involved in their kids' lives now more than ever. As for that 18-year-old, he is in the Ventura County Jail tonight. His name has not been confirmed by police, but he, his parents, and his friends will be questioned more extensively by detectives tomorrow to determine if anybody else was involved in his apparent bomb making.
Please stay back off the property. At home, the girl who bought 3 of the 4 guns used in the Columbine killings is out of sight. 18-year-old Robin Anderson is the mystery witness, the straight-A student who played the violin, made dollhouses, and is still not described as a suspect.
How important of a witness is she? I would think she'd be an extremely important witness. Yes, sir.
It was in the murky gun show world that Anderson bought the 2 shotguns and carbine rifle.
You don't imagine someone like that to do anything or have any connection at all with a shooting.
Tiffany Burke, who talked to Robin Anderson today, says Anderson and Dylan Klebold were good friends who, like these Columbine students, went to the school prom together 2 nights before the deadly rampage. Robin Anderson told her friend she was at Columbine High School the day of the slaughter, but that she was out here in the parking lot and in her car when it all began. She said in her car she could hear all the shooting, then the police sirens and all the commotion that followed. She was in the car for almost 3 hours and down on the floor at times in fear. The unanswered question is, did she know about the shooting in advance?
I'm sure she had no connection with, knowing what was going on. And if she did, I'm sure she'd be in custody.
Robin Anderson's friends think she was duped into believing the guns she bought were for hunting animals, not students. Duped, perhaps, by Eric Harris, the massacre's mastermind, as he had fooled his parents, police, and most everyone else. But Robin Anderson isn't talking publicly, and may not.
I saw a fellow teacher there, and I said, that looks like blood. And he said, no, that's just a senior prank. And I said, no, I think that looks like blood.
He's right. The blood is real. People are dying. Fierce explosions rock the campus, and Friesen begins a frantic search for his students, ushering them out of harm's way. Then, with fear filling his eyes, Kent recalls the moment he came face to face with the killers.
The gunmen appeared. They were looking down at their guns, reloading. They didn't see me, I ran.
But he didn't run for his own life. He continued rounding up as many students as he could, hiding them silently in the science department. He guarded the door, fire extinguisher in hand, poised to blind the gunmen should they burst in. Kent put himself in the line of fire until help arrived.
I know you probably don't like the word, but a lot of people say you're a hero.
There was no heroism at all on my part. You know, it's something that you innately do. You would have done the same thing. You know, don't call me a hero. I'm far, far from it.
The man Kent hails as a hero is his fallen colleague Dave Sanders, who gave his life to save a classroom full of frightened students.
Dave died a hero. The perfect hero shot.
As Kent mourns the innocent victims at a hilltop memorial, he prepares for the biggest challenge of his life, carrying on in the wake of such an overwhelming tragedy.
I don't know how many kids you know personally, but you know most of them.
All except for one.
Lauren Townsend. She was candidate to be valedictorian on scholarship to CSU. Pretty special young lady.
Yeah. She is special. You know, I would love to have my son marry somebody like Laura Townsend.
What about Corey and Matt?
Corey and Matt. Matt, he didn't have a mean bonus body. Always has this grin on, made people happy. Just a great kid. And Corey, gosh, Corey was going to be my chemistry class next year. And I'll miss that. And, you know, to have their life cut short it'll be missed by us.
What do you want to say to them?
You know, they're in a better place. That's what I've been told.
And despite the pain and suffering Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold unleashed on Columbine, Kent finds it in his heart to pity them.
I forgive and forget too easy, I suppose, but it's just so sad that these kids died with such hate in their heart. No one deserves that.
Kent believes in his heart that love is the only force strong enough to bring Columbine back together, overcoming the hatred that tore it apart.
Love will win. It will.
Tried 911 first, and I couldn't get a hold of them.
16-year-old sophomore Matt Depew is trapped in a nightmare, locked in a storage room off the Columbine cafeteria with 17 others.
Everybody in the room was crying, and everybody was scared. I was scared, too.
Matt's dad is a Denver police officer, and that's who he tried to call next. But Matt didn't realize his father, Wayne, was already at the scene, and Matt reached Officer John Leitz instead.
It was tough because my daughter's a student there as well.
For some 2.5 grueling hours, Officer Leitz instructs Matt to barricade the door with chairs and sacks of food. At one point, the suspect started banging on the door of this makeshift hideout.
I then told Officer Leitz, tell my dad I love him because I'm going to die.
But Matt wasn't giving up without a fight. He and Leitz came up with a plan.
That if the suspects did enter the room and weren't shooting, he was to hold the phone up and tell them the phone was for the suspect, and I was going to try and speak with the suspect. If they did come in shooting, about the only weapon they had in the room were 3 chairs, and they divided students up where they were going to attack the suspect with the chairs, and Matt volunteered to be the student to go for the shotgun.
Luckily, it never came to that. The gunman moved on. Matt and the others were eventually rescued by one of the SWAT teams. But what if a gunman entered your child's school? Would your son or daughter be prepared?
We have a plan. We know what to do. We've rehearsed it numerous numbers of times.
Mesa Ridge High School in Colorado Springs wants its students to be ready for trouble. Just 1 week before the massacre at Columbine, the school held this drill, gunmen, SWAT team and all, teaching students emergency maneuvers like covering the windows, locking the doors, and knowing when to run.
You've got to keep moving. The moment you go under a desk, you have effectively trapped yourself.
Former Secret Service agent and now a security expert, Ron Williams, says if you hear shots, first warn others, then run to the nearest exit, even if it means jumping out of a second-story window. But what if the gunman is right up in your face? Ron shows us what to do.
I think we need to talk about this. If you can talk him close to you or get close enough to you, you can take the weapon away from him without him firing a shot.
Fortunately for Matt and the others in hiding, they never came face-to-face with the shooters. They survived by following the life-saving instructions of a seasoned veteran and by staying silent.
They kept quiet. They didn't give away their position to the suspects. And I think that is the only reason they're with us today.
And the people ask who else is responsible besides Dylan and Eric. Minutes after the shooting, the police, along with the SWAT team, thought they had an answer, didn't they? And what was the answer? The answer might have been Matt Nolte and Jim and Matt Eckert. They were detained, searched, and questioned. Tell me about it. Tell me what happened.
Well,
any one of the three.
we'd started going down to, or we'd heard it on the radio. And
you were in a car?
Yeah, we were driving around and decided to go down there to see what was going on. It kind of got us a bit curious. And we got down there and we started walking up this path that was going around the lake. There were people, you know, with baby strollers and, you know, kids rollerblading and whatnot, so we thought we were fine. And we take about 10 steps off the path to go up and talk to a cop that's up on top of the hill, try to find out if we can get any more information. And all of a sudden we turn around and hear sirens, and there's 3 cop cars behind us with their guns pointed at us, telling us to turn around and get our hands behind our head. And, we start doing everything that they tell us to do and get down on our knees, and then as
What's
we're
going
getting
through your head?
scared.
Yeah, I would think.
Pure fear.
All right, so you do everything they tell you to do.
As we're getting down on our knees, we see a golf cart coming up from the other side of the hill with about 7 SWAT team members, all of them carrying M16s and Schultz shotguns. And they come up and they have all those pointed at our heads, and you know, they're still telling us what to do. And they lay us flat down on the ground and start searching us and everything out all our pockets, scattering it all over the field.
Now, you know, you do not know what this is about. Put yourself in their position. You do not know what this is about. Now it's retrospective. It was your clothing that made them think you might be involved. Why?
You look different.
Because you look different.
Yeah, that and
They handcuffed you?
Yeah, they handcuffed us and
Held you for how long?
Yeah, they were dragging us around by like our chains on our necks, stuff like that.
For how long?
They detained us for about an hour and questioned us on like if we knew the trench coat mafia, stuff like that. I mean, we've never even heard of them before that day.
What an experience. Now, let's talk about the aftermath of that experience. You've had death threats?
I have.
You
So
have.
have I.
Why?
I don't know, people seem to think that we have something to do with it just because they saw us on TV.
In other words, it's like in the newspaper. If somebody accuses you of something and then they
Everyone
retract it, the retraction's on page 31, but the headline is on page 1.
And it must be true, whatever the press says,
Yeah.
and the press screwed up a lot with
What did they
ours.
say? How did the press screw up?
They said we were friends with these people, that we hung out a lot, that we had talked over the internet with them.
Were you friends? Did you talk on the... Were you friends?
No.
We didn't even
Did
know
you
them.
talk on the internet?
No.
Did you know them?
No.
Did you know how they dressed?
No.
No.
We had no clue who they were. I mean, we would not know anything about them.
So what's it like to have the nation watching you?
Kind of scared. Kind of scary. I mean, everywhere I go, I mean, I'm like looking around because
Do you think that in any way you're like Eric and Dylan?
No.
No.
I mean, is that things that do you think about those things?
No.
No.
We don't think about going out and shooting people. We don't condone violence at all. It's not at all a way of life.
Let me talk to Jim. Jim, when we were interviewing you, you said some really interesting things to our producer. You said you have been pushed around and made fun of.
Oh, yeah. All throughout high school, even before then, because I was into this kind of stuff. I went through my gothic phase, and I was a punk before that and went back to punk. And I got pushed around in school, you know, by, like, a lot of the, like, I don't know if they were athletic or not. They wore a lot of the athletic gear, but they weren't like, you know, real nice kids. They just, you know, start pushing you around, push you into pop machines, try to throw you in trash cans, and like a big group of them.
Jim and I went to school together, and the only way we could like keep ourselves from like getting beat up or getting, you know, getting half, you know, in a lot of trouble, I think, was to be able to stick together.
I have to ask this question. Why do you dress this way?
It's comfortable, and the
Well,
fact
now
that
wait, it's comfortable. A heavy chain around your neck, your hair out like that.
These chains actually probably weigh less than a pound. I think they probably weigh a few
No,
ounces.
I don't take that you dress this way because it's comfortable.
Well, actually, the jeans,
they're
really comfortable. Wear, the pants we wear, I mean, it's like, it's those pants, when you get off work and you go home and you want to change into something comfortable, you know, you don't have to worry about anything. That's what we want to wear. Something that we don't, you know, don't have to like worry about.
That, and it's also about expression.
Aha! I'm not buying the it's comfortable. I'm buying a quote by you. It's a free country and we can dress how we want. I'm buying that. Why are you here today? What do you want to say?
I want to say first off that we had no part in this at all.
Well, somebody lost their job over this, right?
He did.
Mine did.
Okay. Say what you're going to say. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, we had no part in this at all, and you know, we want society to know that just because we look different, we act different, we think a bit different than what normal society does, not all of us are like what Eric and Dylan are. Or we don't want to go out and do what they did. We don't believe anything like that.
We'll be right back.
The deadly aftermath of a shooting rampage by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. 2 students dressed in black, armed to the teeth, and filled with hate.
All I saw was the barrels of the guns just going off blazing. Saw a couple teachers sniping with a bunch of blood.
As investigators try to understand the tragedy, Inside Edition has uncovered a startling videotape. It was made by some Columbine students more than 2 years ago as part of a class project and was intended as a parody. The guns are not real, and we've blurred the now former students' faces. And one of the makers of the film says the video was not relevant to last month's tragedy. But from today's perspective, the violent scenes played out in the corridors of Columbine, even though intended as parody, now seem eerie.
Hey, that's the guy that stole my pen.
This tape was produced for a video production class by now former Columbine students who had no affiliation with Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. It's a satirical look at high school life.
Looking back, I mean, the violence of it is a little strange.
Harris and Klebold are not in this video, but one of their former friends, Brooks Brown, says he helped edit the project.
It's really eerie coincidence, but I doubt it inspired me. I mean, it was done at the time, and I mean, looking back, it's not really a comedy now, but it was done as a parody and for humor.
Looking at this movie 2 years later is remarkable. In this scene, a student works on a device he plans to use to vaporize Columbine High School. And this student is dressed in what appears to be a black trench coat and opens fire with a very real-looking semi-automatic weapon. In this video, albeit in jest, the kids reach for guns to resolve minor differences.
You cut me off last Thursday.
Here, the students engage in a shootout, not far from the window, where just 2 years later, one of the wounded students would fall into the arms of a waiting SWAT team. And here, again using special effects, a student fires a rocket launcher in the school parking lot. Now, take a close look at Columbine High School as the 4 students walk away in the final scene.
It was made for 2 reasons. One, to help get a grade in video productions class. Another one, to promote the play we were doing at the time.
Now, in any other school in the country, a short film like this might not raise an eyebrow. After all, it's not that different from the kind of shoot-'em-up movies teenagers flock to each weekend. So, to get some perspective, we took the film to the experts. Dr. Jackie Rhea is a clinical psychologist from William Patterson University in New Jersey.
The tape looks like a terrorist type video. I mean, it looks like war footage. It doesn't look at all like a student project or anything like that. It's horrendous.
Dr. Melvin Otis is a psychiatrist from New York University's Child Study Center.
Don't show it. And if you were to show something like this, that it would accompany a discussion.
We tried to schedule an interview with Columbine's principal, Frank DeAngelis, to talk about the tape without success. So we went to Barbara Monsu, the area administrator. She was willing to talk about the student video productions until we wanted to show her this one.
Can I just show it to you real quick? I think it would help. Can I just show it to you real quick? You think this is the kind of thing that should be made at school?
Back off, okay?
I just want to ask her a question. I just want to show her the tape.
But we kept calling Rick Kaufman, the school district spokesman, until he finally agreed to watch the videotape in private, along with William Kowalski, an attorney representing the Jefferson County School District.
But I want to talk to the people that saw it, and I want to talk to the teacher who was the video production teacher at that time, and have them explain to me exactly what was going on.
Kowalski says now school rules have changed and that students would face expulsion for bringing fake weapons to school. Therefore, he says this movie couldn't be made today.
Is this something that would normally be allowed to happen at the school?
No, it should not happen at the school.
Joseph Stair says he helped found the Trenchcoat Mafia and remembers the day this video was shown at school.
Everybody was just laughing when we watched that video. Say, in retrospect, it's bad, but come on, the idea of someone going after someone just because they cut them off a week ago or stole their pens, come on, that's funny stuff.
Our experts believe that violent imagery, whether a movie, computer games, or the internet, can affect anyone.
There's nothing to mitigate the horrible violence. It basically ends with, hey, we won. Look at us walking away triumphantly from the school as it blows to pieces. And that's a terrible message for students to have.
It was April 4th of '98 when 5 Columbine students, including 4 athletes, were charged with burglarizing and trashing an apartment in a revenge attack that resulted in thousands of dollars in damages. The charges against 2 of the students were reduced to misdemeanors, but the other 3 defendants, including state wrestling champ Rocky Hofschneider, would plead guilty to felony burglary and be sentenced to 4 years probation. Hofschneider spent 3 days in jail and was briefly suspended by his high school, his lawyer says, though he did go on to graduate with offers of college athletic scholarships. Andrew Beard says his friend Dylan Klebold was furious over what he saw as a double standard for jocks, not only in school, but outside as well.
He just went off. He's just like, oh, jocks can do this and that, and don't have to worry about what will happen because they can do anything they want.
Eric Harris's long-simmering anger now began to include specific threats. Student Brooks Brown says that after last spring, Harris used his existing website and the internet for more than just games.
On his webpage, he had the top 10 things I hate most, and I was number 1. He gave out my address and phone number and said how this guy, I'm going to kill him, I'm going to get a gun. He threatened me. He told me he was going to kill me. He threatened my friends.
When Brooks's parents heard this, they didn't sit idly by. They say they twice complained to authorities, a claim confirmed by this police blotter item that appeared in the local paper in March of '98. A father reported that his son had been threatened. The threats were right there on Eric Harris's webpage. When Judy Brown printed out some of the more violent passages and gave them to the police, at least one detective said there was reason to worry.
He called in his bomb specialist. The bomb specialist showed us what a bomb would look like, a pipe bomb, so we could look around our yard and under our cars. He was quite concerned.
In fact, it was clear from Harris's webpage that his rage was boiling over. Here are some passages, minus the expletives. My belief is that if I say something, it goes. I am the law. If you don't like it, you die. God, I can't wait till I can kill you people. I'll just go to some downtown area in some big city and blow up and shoot everything I can. Feel no remorse, no sense of shame. You all better hide, because I'm coming for everyone soon, and I'll be armed to the teeth, and I will shoot to kill, because dead people don't argue. And how did the Browns find their way to Harris's private webpage? It turns out, Judy Brown says, that the person who told her son about the webpage was none other than Dylan Klebold, Eric Harris's best friend.
He said whoever gave it to him was afraid of Eric. And please don't ever tell who had given the information. And until this happened, I didn't know that it was in fact Dylan Klebold that had given my son access to the information. Now that I look back, I think that maybe he saw it going in a bad direction. Maybe that was a cry for help.
But Judy Brown says the police did nothing, and her own fears subsided when her son told her he and Eric Harris had made peace and resumed a friendship. What few people knew, though, was that for Eric Harris, writing about violence and guns was no longer enough. During an argument outside a 7-Eleven last July 4th, witnesses say Harris or one of his friends allegedly flashed a gun, a pistol-grip shotgun. And Harris reportedly told several classmates he'd begun assembling a whole arsenal of guns and fireworks and bomb components. He told Brooks Brown that it wasn't just talk.
He was building pipe bombs in his basement, and he was telling us about them and how he was detonating them and using fireworks by people's houses, just people he didn't like.
At the same time, Harris and Klebold became more brazen about their claimed neo-Nazi affections.
They spoke German to each other and stuff, and wore clothing sometimes with swastikas on it and stuff.
They became more offhand about their obsession with guns, one classmate recalling a poetry exercise by Harris.
We had to pick an object that we were going to be. He chose a bullet, and we had to choose a best friend, and Eric chose that his best friend was a gun.
Still, many, if not most of their classmates saw it all as shock value stuff. The poems, the essays about Rambo-style annihilation, the home video depicting their destruction of the jocks. Besides, Klebold and Harris were going ahead with their college applications, just like any seniors. They began working at this pizza parlor, their on-the-job performance just fine. They had no trouble making their 6:30 in the morning bowling class. Dylan was offered a job at a computer store. He was accepted by the University of Arizona, and he would even take a date to the senior prom. So what about all the talk of guns? What about the air of menace, the swastikas?
I just thought, you know, that's maybe they like this stuff for a day.
I knew he was like setting off bombs out in fields and stuff, but I know I've done my fair share of some of that, and you know, just grab the big firecrackers, go watch them blow up, but it was no big deal.
But for Eric Harris, the leader between the two, the news was bad and getting worse by the day. He was turned down by every college he'd applied to. The girl he asked to the prom said no. And on April 15th, 5 days before the massacre, Harris tried to sign up for the Marines and was rejected. The reason? He was taking an antidepressant drug called Luvox, which is used to treat obsessive-compulsive disorder. Harris's friends reportedly wonder if he stopped using the drug in his last days, though Brooks Brown says he never stopped ranting about guns.
He was talking about how he turned 18, and how he was going to get a gun, and how he just wished there wasn't the stupid waiting period.
2 days later, April 17th, neighbors recall loud noises coming from Harris's garage, when it's believed he and Klebold were putting together pipe bombs for their arsenal. And on the 20th of April, Eric Harris, with Dylan Klebold at his side, stopped waiting. Could the answer to the terrible puzzle be that simple? That two kids who saw themselves as the losers in a double-standard high school world moved from virtual violence in computer scenarios to planning the real thing when they felt that double standard existed beyond the school grounds. Dr. Erica Freeman, a psychiatrist who specializes in treating creative and troubled minds, never met the killers, but has thought about the last year of their lives. Their behavior was different by a degree than it had been the
It's
previous
different
year.
between temperature and fever, and nobody recognized when the fever started.
Today, the if-only questions, if only I'd known what they were really thinking and doing, are haunting to so many people. Eric Harris's parents are in seclusion, but Dylan Klebold's father, Tom, reportedly lamented, "It can't be. My son's not like this. He's not violent." While his mother, Sue, according to Judy Brown, who was with her when the news broke, struggled to understand her son's explosive relationship with Harris.
They were afraid he was some way connected because he was a friend of Eric's, but they couldn't imagine the connection in the violent way.
Others recall what they saw in a backward search for the clues they wished they'd seen, like the magistrate who sentenced Harris and Klebold to probation last March.
I didn't see any red flags. I didn't see any markers. I didn't see any attitude. I didn't see any dysfunction in the relationship with the boys.
And to the supervisor whose department released the two from probation.
We've spent agonizing time, even over the weekend, we were calling each other and saying, okay, so what about this and what about that? And maybe we should try this. So we're really trying real hard to see what we could have done.
But Dr. Freeman says by then, it was probably already too late.
They were sick. And they have the kind of sickness that we never catch, and they are never caught until they do something horrible.
Horrible, of course, does not come near to describing what they did. For days we have watched the litany of unspeakable grief, a teacher and 14 children going to their rest instead of celebrating the richness of another spring.
After you've gone through the pain.
Who could think to author mayhem on this scale? Who could actually do it? And for what reasons that anyone could understand? Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold took with them whatever answers they might have had when they turned their guns on themselves. A final act to make the pain of grieving deeper still.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. Oh, Lord, you just stare.
Thank you.